Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, please go and leave a 5-star review. For example, here's a really great review from Cami Loves Tucker Carlson. I follow Chrissie on Twitter, Gems Natural, and am a loyal Compound subscriber. Discovered her podcast and really love it. She does great interviews. Ann Coulter and Gavin McInnes being my favorites. Give her a listen. Plus, she is smoking hot. Oh, thanks, Cami Loves Tucker Carlson. Thank you, guys. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Cushy Dreams. Cushy Dreams is my go-to for high quality CBD products. I prefer the joints. They do a variety of products. They'll do kind of flower, aka bud, in cans, and they also have these pre-roll CBD joints. But this stuff is premium. It's really high quality. I like Cushy Dreams for the express reason that you can smoke it and not get high, but you still get all the benefits of CBD. My mind and body feel calm after just like a few little pufferoonies. I really like, they do these 5-packs of CBD joints, and I'm such a big fan. This one is in Dream, perfect for like just a couple little puffs before bed, and you feel automatically relaxed. And look, you could take this anywhere you go. It's perfectly legal. It's legal in all 50 states, and you can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. They take the artisan approach. Every run is in a small batch. Looks, feels, smells like high-quality marijuana, but it's not. It's just CBD. Just harmless little CBD. And best of all, it's grown here in the USA. They have pre-rolls and CBD flower in many different indica sativa blends like Energy, Hustle, Relax, Create, Dream, Energy. I already said Energy. But yeah, I love this stuff. It just helps with my anxiety and my ADD, and it's just great. So go to cushydreams.com. That's Kushy dreams.com and get you some high quality CBD bud. At checkout, use code CMP to get 20% off every offer. That's the first, second, third, all of them. And smoke your CBD. Guys, I'm doing stand-up in a city near you. Come see me, and I would like to see you. Come see me do stand-up at the Bricktown Comedy Club in Oklahoma City, May 9th. Then Comedians of the Compound are heading to Austin, Texas. We will be at I think it's called the Vulcan Gas Company or the Big Laugh Comedy Club on May 14th and 15th. And then I'm going to be in Springfield, New Jersey at Scotty's Comedy Cove on May 21st and 22nd. So to get tickets, go to chrissiemayr.com. And I would love to see you there. And if you want me to go to a city that I have not mentioned, hit me up on social media. You know where to find me. You know how to follow me. All right. I'm very excited for this interview. I did it while I was in Florida. We were able to get together and record it. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear this interview that I did with comedian Nick DiPaolo. Check it out. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, just go ahead and leave a 5-star review. And I will be reading the best reviews every week, so long as they are 5 stars. I'm so excited. Just as long as they're, the 3 stars, not going to read them. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm sweating my ass off. So excited to have this guy on the podcast today. This is actually the first time we've met.
Is this?
I think so. I've seen you on like many a compound, many on Anthony Zooms.
Haven't you been maybe like sitting on the couch when I come in to do Comia years ago? Not years ago.
Maybe not. I think this is our first time meeting. Comedian Nick DiPaolo.
Well, thank you very much, Chrissie.
Happy to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Not at my house. Thank you for coming to my hotel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice. Red Roof Inn. I see this spoiling the shit out of you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is above my budget for sure. It's funny. We're both doing shows tonight. I was at Boca Black Box last night. My first time performing there. And
how'd you like it? I've been there once.
I liked it. I thought, because
Nice
my friend Esther Koo, who hosted for me, she was like, yeah, it's normally like all 80-year-olds, but I guess I brought in like a slightly younger crowd.
Well, there you go.
So
save the 80-year-olds for me.
Yeah. And so where are you performing this weekend?
At the Black Box. Last night I was at in Port St. Lucie at it was called the Town Hall Event Center.
Ooh.
Which so I pull up and I see a church with a steeple, but that's also the town hall. And where I was performing in a church, an actual church, where they do masses on Wednesdays and Sundays.
That's the vibe there.
And
wow.
I said, that's what I said. I said, if the steeple doesn't get hit by lightning by the end of my set, I'm not doing my job. And
that's odd.
I said some really horrible shit. I haven't said shit like that in church since I was touched by the pastor.
Did the church like bring it out of you? You were just like inspired. You're like, I can't say it, but I should.
Oh, well, I always do that. But yes, it actually had that effect. You know, I must have done 9 Catholic jokes and I dropped in a few abortion things to make people uncomfortable. But no, it was good. But see, here's what I don't like. I'm not doing this every night now. And I live in Savannah, Georgia. And there's no way to do it. My podcast is going really well to the point where I don't have to do stand-up. But of course, I love stand-up. But I'm not one of these comics who's addicted to it. I never was, even when I was, in my prime. So I did fine last night. But I know I only did fine because I've been doing this forever. You know what I mean? So I don't like to be seen in public at 70% or 50%. I mean, response-wise, it's fine. But I know when I'm doing, I was dropping in old stuff and just, so many cobwebs because I haven't been on in 2 months or whatever.
Yeah. I was going to ask, like, did you ever had a period where you felt so rusty? Like, I don't know how long your break was, like, COVID or
end
whatever.
of January, I think, is the last time I was on stage.
Oh, my God. So, okay, it's been a couple months.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong. I probably did it 3 weeks ago. I can't remember. But, that was the longest that I ever gone. Like I said, because I've been doing it forever and I wanted to listen to my set. I always record my sets. When you haven't been on, that's the best thing to do. Listen to this last set you did.
It's hard to listen to something. Like for me personally, I'm just like, oh, here I go.
Are you kidding? No, it's hard for everybody. But that wasn't a problem. My phone blew up on me.
Ugh.
So it was very weird. I went on last night and, it came back. I'll be fine tonight. But again, only because of experience. I have 20 premises on my phone that I haven't even touched. The last gig I did, I think, was, like I said, the end of January or maybe the beginning of February in Tampa at Side Splitters.
I'm going to be there Sunday.
It's a great club. I come home and I go, I'm listening to because I threw out a lot of new stuff. I killed for 4 shows. I said, I'm coming home and listening to these sets, making notes. That was January. I never touched my phone.
Still sitting
it's so
there.
painful, like you said, to listen to yourself and so whatever. I don't like doing shit half, especially something. It's the only thing I'm good at in the world, and the podcast thing, which is I do an hour myself, and it feels like when I'm done, it scratches that itch.
Yeah,
because I'm yapping away and I'm being funny off the top of my head, and then I go home. I have it very. I don't want to say I'm too comfortable. Thank God.
Doing good. Yeah,
well, it's going really good. But my manager Tommy's booked. I sent him a text going after last night. I go, Tommy, I said I might hang him up after I do all these dates this year. Maybe not permanently. He sends back. He goes, definitely not permanently.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was just talking to Joe DeRosa, and he had a very similar sentiment. He had no motivation to get back on the road. He's like, he's naming names of particular club owners. Well, really just the one guy in Naples that he doesn't want to deal with anymore. He's just like, he sounded like he was over stand-up for the most part.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I've been doing it probably twice as long. And can I just say something to DeRosa? He might be my favorite comic right now.
Really?
He's great. Friggin' love him. I hear him on the radio, and I'm not on Twitter anymore. I took myself.
That, Nick? Yeah. I mean, Joe.
Yeah, no, I turn it up when he is on, and he makes me laugh. He's got that nerd pain. He puts that angst into it, and he's just funny is all. When I used to hear stuff like that, and I was on Twitter, I'd DM somebody saying, God, are you funny, whatever.
That's great.
I took myself off that. And so if you're watching this, Joe, don't yet. I mean,
don't quit yet. Joe needs
wait till you hit me. Wait till you hit the 34-year mark like myself.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't
How long you been doing?
Oof. I mean, like I'm just a kid, just like 10 or 11 years.
Oh my God.
But it feels like nothing because it feels like now that I've been in it 10 or 11 years, I'm like, oh, really? I was only working hard the last 4. So, But I want to talk about the Patrice documentary. You weren't in it. Cumia wasn't in it.
I was in it for I was told 1/8 of a second, and I'm furious because I went in there. Me and him had a great I have all the interesting stories about him, and I'm the only one that's going to be honest about him. Everybody else is turning him into. I sat down and I went, "Hey, first of all, if he was white, would you be doing this?" I said something like that. You know what I mean? But I loved Patrice, but I'm just saying I gave them stories that, you know, me and him, as far as tough crowd, had this great energy. We liked each other and disliked each other the minute we met. Yet I hung out with him. We did shorties watching shorties. I told him stories about going up to Montreal on his Escalade and all the racist crap we were saying to him. I mean, really good stuff. And then it came out. I didn't watch it. And I asked somebody, I think it was Comia. I asked somebody, he said, how long was I in it? Somebody said, about 2 seconds. Which fucking infuriated, because I had an argument with my manager when he wanted me to do it. And I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. I go, they don't even have me on his benefit anymore. I don't think his family even likes me.
Wow.
That's just me speculating.
Yeah.
But my manager's like, no, I think, you'll be sorry you didn't do it. I said, okay, because we were in New York doing something else. And turns out I was right.
Yeah.
But
Cumia was just like, I interviewed him and we talked about it for a while. And he's like, I find it kind of ironic that like Patrice and I had, and like you too, I'm sure, like same values of like, don't censor yourself. Don't get into a place where you have the golden handcuffs where you're like doing too well to speak your mind anymore. And you've got, you know, afraid of losing sponsors or management or gigs. And they lived by the same values, yet Cumia and yourself like were not included in this documentary. And also you guys were so close and it seemed to have all the, you guys seemed to have all the best stories.
I wasn't
Mosquito.
Thank you, honey.
I'll edit that out.
Brought that with me. I didn't I wasn't as close as, to Patrice as Norton and Boss and those guys. They were really close. But as far as what would make for a good documentary, because they're doing it because he was such a rebel or, and me and him got that reputation from Tough Crowd. There was a ton of stuff they could have used in there. So, but again, then you have to take into consideration the politics of the people who make this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're PC and they don't even know it. I'm sure I horrid them, they were horrified, but I made a white crack or whatever. But
do you remember who it was that told you? Because you didn't watch the documentary. Do you remember like what friend of yours said like, oh yeah, man, you're barely in it?
I don't. I might have been Comia. I want to say Comia himself, right. Actually. So, but I was very surprised because they kept me there for over an hour.
What do you wish had made it into the documentary that you had shared with them?
Well, the stuff about going up to Montreal on his Escalade, because we would just, if somebody recorded that and put it on the internet, we would have been arrested. It was so brutal. And funny. We're both laughing, but I'm saying stuff about black people that 10 times meaner than what he was saying about white people.
Wow.
But that's what we loved about each other. That's why Patrice was. Here's why. I was at the Stand a couple of years ago, and this young black kid comes up to me. He's only like 21 from Philly, young comic. I don't know who it was. Okay. And he comes up to me and goes, man, I was talking to Patrice O'Neal right before he died, and he said, you're straight up gangster when it comes to stand-up, which I'm like,
That's the best compliment.
Of course. That's how I felt about him.
Coming from a black person too. I'm just
coming from
flattered.
A young brother. Yeah. Yes. So I said, yeah. You always hear this too. I always hear this, or I'll read it in a chat room or whatever in comments. Patrice respected Nick, so that's how you know he's a good comic. No, fucking, I respected his shit. So it should be the other way around. You should be saying whatever. But he was just one of a kind. And I hear him on the radio and it makes me so goddamn sad,
I feel like I started stand up it was right after he died. So I didn't see him around at all. I feel like I totally missed out. And like everything now is just, listening to old like O&A shows. And it seems like the O&A comics and the Tough Crowd comics were basically the same.
That's right.
Do you feel like Tough Crowd was like, so it seems like it was such an important show, like for the time. Absolutely. And also now I feel like we need a Tough Crowd show now, kind of more than ever.
Colin hears that 1,000 times a day, but it wouldn't be the same without Geraldo and without Patrice. You try to recreate that magic. And I don't know that they'd let us get away with the stuff we got away with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Comedy Central, it's showbiz. They actually said to Colin, at Comedy Central. This was after the show had been on a while. But you guys talk too much about race. Leave that to Dave Chappelle. Imagine saying that to Colin Quinn, who grew up in Brooklyn. He actually has black in-laws.
Wow.
He went to a high school with with more black kids than white. Nobody knows, black people better than Colin does. Imagine saying that to Colin Quinn, though. So
yeah, and that's his life. It's like saying, "Oh, sorry, you can't talk about your actual life because of the way we think things should go down."
Yes.
That's insane. I mean,
and he's brilliant at. I used to watch Colin at the Comedy Cellar when he was doing race stuff, and there'd be tables of black people just falling out of their seats because he was bringing up stuff that only black people know about themselves. It was they couldn't believe, and they'd come up to him after the show and just they were in awe that he knew black people so well. How brilliant he is. So
have you ever done the House of Laughs in Wilmington, Delaware?
God, no.
I don't know if it's a newer club, but I was just there. I don't mean to bring up I don't know if it sounds like I'm bragging, but I was just there, and I didn't expect it, but it's a very urban room, 95% black, and I don't understand why it is, but to do well in an all black room means a lot. I think my experience has been that they don't really bullshit you. They're not gonna not a lot of people in there knew who I was. There was no extra laughs. There was no they're not going to meet you 40% of the way. They're not even going to meet you. No. They're not even meeting you 10% of the way. They're just come and get us. And that's actually a really good muscle to work as a comic. Cause it's I don't know, you learn to be really present, and the second it's too much crowd work, or the second you're staying on a premise too long. And I was
saying they have a short attention span?
No, I just feel
I got a better one than that. I can top you. When I first moved to New York, Barry Katz was my manager. I'd been there about a year. I did what's the show called? Evening at the Apollo.
Oh, did you rub the stump and everything?
No, I wouldn't do that. This is before COVID, but I still wouldn't touch it. No. I rubbed my own stump on stage. I was fucking horrendous.
For luck, not for luck. Just
I come out. My first line is, again, I was brand new. I'm in front of an all black audience, and I go, I ad libs. I say, "Oh God, I never felt what I feel like. I feel like Debbie Boone, who was the whitest woman I could think of. Of course, they're just staring at me. And then I go into my first bit, something about ZZ Top shaving their beards. Of course, that falls flat. I didn't even have that much. I didn't have much race stuff. I was brand new. And they're just looking at me. Then I get a couple laughs. And then that's about it. Now I'm getting silence again. Some black woman stands up, old black. I go, oh, Jesus. I can still see her in my nightmare. She stands up and she's like this. Get them off. Oh, no. And then they start to join in. I get chased off by the guy with the broom. I was very honored.
Did you not do your full set? Was it early?
No, they you know how when they boo somebody off, the siren goes off and they chase you off?
Right, you just have to be done.
Right. So I exit the stage. Sinbad was the host. He's there in his canary yellow suit. And I'm walking towards him and he goes, as I go by him, he goes, I don't know what happened, man. I went right by him, down the stairs, went outside and waved a cab. I was in a cab.
within
a minute and a half of me fucking getting booted off stage.
I'm halfway home. Yeah.
Somebody has that footage somewhere.
God, that's so funny.
And oh my God, it was it was humiliating, and it wasn't. I mean, I forgot about it the next day, but I know somebody has that footage. As soon as I saw that first lady stand up, I'm fine.
That's so funny. I remember the host, it was the same show where I had maybe spent a little bit too much time on the woman in front. Because I mentioned this in a past episode, but her job was, she was a vagina steamer. She had a vagina steaming company.
What?
And I was fascinated.
I used to do that when I was younger. I
just with your mouth.
Use my breath.
Just with a tea kettle or something. I was blown away. I was I had to talk to this woman, but again, it was just too many beats on her to the alienation of the rest of the crowd. And as soon as I got off, after the show, the host, this guy Buck Wild.
Why do I know Buck? I've heard
such a funny guy. Immediately told me why. He's like, yeah, you lost him on that vagina steaming girl. They, and then at this other point, they could see you thinking too much. And I just was he just let me know right away.
It's a bad thing to do in front of a black audience. They see you thinking. What
to change. Yeah. I was thinking too much, but I appreciate it. I also it was just so funny to me, this Buck Wild guy, hilarious comic, hilarious host. If he ever hears this, you were great, dude. I just loved to, like, it was very blatant. Like the first sentence he said to me, like in the same breath, it was like, do you have a boyfriend? Do you like black guys? Do you cheat? Like that was in the same breath.
The minute he met you?
Yeah. It was like pretty right off the bat. And I was like,
those brothers are very shy.
I was very flattered, but I just was like,
So what's the answer to those three? I was going to ask you myself.
I was like, I'm sorry. And then
I'm married, so it doesn't matter.
I was like, I'm so flattered, but no. Maybe next time.
You hear that? No. But
yeah.
Maybe next time, really?
No,
hey,
probably
Buck,
not.
Did you hear that?
Probably not. Love you, Buck, but not like that. Do you feel like you keep up with the other like O&A comics? Do you feel like, obviously we all know why, like, well, Patrice didn't live up to he was about to live up to his potential. He was like getting there. Did you observe a lot of self-sabotage from him and just working with him, being friends with him?
I didn't really observe that. I just saw somebody who's brutally honest and whether you're black or white, he would have eventually, especially the way politics are and races today, they would have made him a god, even bigger than he was. But I didn't see I always hear those stories about him, but I didn't witness it personally. He was just honest. And I laughed when I heard he was at Hilarities in Cleveland and he went off on some woman on the first show, like the first show of the weekend, and the guy sent him home.
Sent him home?
Yes, because he went so nuts, saying horrible shit to some old white lady, and which made me laugh so goddamn hard. So,
you're no stranger to sending people home. I remember there was a show you did because my boyfriend Frank, he booked you at this show at Lucy's, and he
Frank
just was
Pellegrino?
Reminding me of the story.
I was just kidding. Is it Frank Pellegrino?
Yeah.
I was just fucking around. It's the only Frank I know.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's him. He was telling me the story of you were performing at Lucy's. Frank. You were talking about Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
And this woman was walking out. Do you remember this story?
Yeah. What did she say? Her and her husband.
You were so offended. I think the husband ended up staying.
He stayed. He did stay.
And you helped her find her purse and like basically walked her out of there. The whole crowd was cheering.
She sat there like this. Well, I'm murdering it. It's a small, tiny place. There's like 70 people in there. And I go, the other 69 people are loving this. You think it might be you? Try opening your fucking mouth. That I went off on her.
Open your mouth.
And I go, your purse is down by your thing if you want to leave, whatever. It was, but that's not the first time. I walk people every show, apparently, but I never see them. I don't see him leave a lot of the time. I find out the next night by the manager or the club manager, and they tell me, and they laugh about it. They used to laugh about it. But yeah, I've got into, when I do see people get up and leave, I always say to them, now I see other comics saying this. I've been saying it for like 15 years because of my act. I go, did you do your research who the headliner was this weekend, or did you just show up? Do you do that at a music concert? You don't look, you just walk in.
Just see anybody.
Just turn it on them. It's like, if I can do your research. You think we all laugh at the same shit? Then they're giving me the finger as they're leaving.
Wow. Good for you. And you just can't let that get to you. You can't give a fuck.
Oh, dude. I might, like I said, because of my act, that's been going on for a long time. Same with the guys like Bobby Slayton used to walk people, but you get thick skin. And a matter of fact, Bill Hicks used to, I don't know if you ever saw Bill, there was a special on Bill Hicks, a documentary, but some lady wrote a letter when she had saw him at a club in Houston at the Laugh Stop. He was horrible. This guy is going to burn in hell. He talked about a bush, but it went off like 2 pages. He put it in his press release when he went to club.
That's great.
You gotta get that, and you can't let that. If let me tell you, if you let that bother you, you're in the wrong business. You got to have thick skin. But a lot of people don't do an act where people get that emotionally angry.
2 people left during my set last night, but I was like, in my head, I'm like, maybe it's getting late for them. Maybe they had Mexican before. Like maybe
were they old?
They were older.
Maybe their oxygen tanks were running low.
Yeah, I think they might have been in their 60s. And it was just,
oh God,
and I'm like, you know what?
Don't say that old.
I'm like, maybe, who knows? That's not old at all. That's not old at all.
Yes, it is.
Nah, what do you think is old? I mean, we're in Florida, so I think old down here is like 100.
That's a different. But that's the beauty of, like, I get people from ages 20s, mid to early 20s, to like last night, a couple people in their 70s, which that's like a badge of honor for me.
Oh yeah,
because these young kids, you wouldn't think they know who I am. They find Tough Crowd online, and they come out to see me. That's how bad, like you said, the show is needed.
Because Tough Crowd ended what, 04?
Not even, probably 03, yeah, somewhere in there. But I see, like, now after a show, I'll see like a young, good-looking girl comes up to me, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here? My parents fucking love you.
Oh God.
And a couple of years would be my grandparents. So but you're like, hey, what's going on?
Like, they have excellent taste.
Yeah, that's what I say. But yeah, so Florida's a different game. But
so you're in Atlanta now.
No, Savannah.
Oh, Savannah.
Yeah.
How does that compare, like, to being in Florida? Because I was like, oh, because New York, oh, everyone's free down here. It's great.
Yes.
A lot of few people are like not wearing masks, which is great.
Yeah.
Did you consider Florida at all?
I did not. Me and my wife went to Savannah like 13 years ago for a long weekend. She read the book, what is it? Something Garden of Good and Evil, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, whatever it is. And loved it. And she has relatives that go way back from Georgia. But she just loves Savannah. So we went down for the weekend, and I'm like, this place, beautiful restaurants, tree-lined streets, beautiful bars. And then you go down to the Riverwalk, and there's this, a steamboat at night going by, and the food is killer. And then we really liked it. So, cut to 13 years later, New York, I was paying ridiculous property taxes and commuting from Westchester to the Comedy Cellar, which is only 39 miles. Sometimes it would take an hour and a half. I did that for 15, 18 years. So I said, finally, I was like, fuck this. We go to Savannah. I've never felt more at home in a place in my life.
Wow.
Everything is just so convenient. It's everything New York's not. First of all, the price of living is, half of. I was paying $25,000 a year in property tax in Westchester County. And I pay in Georgia, and the house is obviously not as nice as the West, but damn close. It's on the nicest street in Savannah. I'm paying $3,000 a year in property tax.
Oh my God.
Pack of cigarettes is $6. No traffic. I used to sit on the Sawmill Parkway at fucking 5:30. I can't believe I did that. If somebody said I had to do it again, I'd go sell shoes for a living or something. But there's no traffic in Savannah. I get to work. My studio's 9 minutes from my house.
Wow, you're spoiled now.
I am too comfortable. But that's not why I'm saying I want to maybe take some time off from stand up. Chris Rock told me 20 years ago, you got to step away. Everybody's going to step away for her. And I remember Colin Quinn stepping away in LA. He wrote for like the Wayans brothers or some show. I've never stepped away from it. Chris Rock said you have to. And I feel like, again, because I don't have a place to work out every night. Look, this is a muscle. If you don't use it, it atrophies stand up. And I don't want to be seen like an old athlete who's like, being rusty. Or, he was good a few years ago. I don't want to be seen like that. I'm always going to get the laughs because I can be funny off the cuff, even when I can't remember my shit, which is a lot of times. Last night I was so rusty. I'm going to my phone. I go, guys, hold on.
Feeling of like, just think of one more joke, Mayr. Like just something.
Yeah, I went to my phone like 3 times, and they were laughing because they know how it works. I'm scrolling through, and they're just laughing at me. So, but I don't want to be seen like that. And you have to write every night. Like when I was on Tough Crowd, every night I'd do 3-4 sets around the city, and we were all down there cheering each other on. A really encouraging environment. And there's probably a club a half hour from Savannah somewhere. But like I said, after I prepare for my show, I get up and I have another little writing gig I do for somebody. Then I go to the studio and do my show. It sort of scratches the itch for me a little bit.
What's the prep like for your show?
I lay on my bed. I do I do everything on my cell phone.
You rub your stump.
I rub my stump. We use that as the opening. Sometimes it goes better than other time. And I lay on my bed and I read stories for about 3 hours and I grab the ones I like. I edit them right there. I cut and paste the important parts of the story. I I have a lot of sound drops in my show that
Soundboard,
go with it.
Yeah.
So I drop those in. I just write those in parentheses, and then I email that to my producer the night before. So he has everything and he can put it in the teleprompter. So it's about 3 hours, sometimes a little more. And then the next day I just have to put those sound drops on my iPad and I'll check the news again to see if there's anything breaking. So, because it's a daily show, Monday through Thursday. So it's enough. And then I do the show and I'm speaking for an hour by myself, which is more than enough. And then I'm a little drained by the time I get home. And then I wait a couple hours and then I have to do it again. Start looking through stories for the next day.
Were you this focused on like news and current events, like just with your regular stand-up? But do you feel like more so since you started your show?
Oh, more so. You can't. Here's the problem. I lean right in my politics. I always did. Even as an open micer, people go, "You're politically incorrect." That's coming around. This was 1988. I'm like, I don't think it's going to be here for. Look where we are now. It's even worse than ever. So here's the problem. Because I'm filling that niche. There's not too many funny right wing. You always hear there's not many funny conservative, which is not true either. They just happen to go into business because they're smarter and they have a family.
They're making money, yeah.
You know what I mean? But
or they're doing OnlyFans, crushing it.
Yeah.
Selling pictures of their butthole.
Yeah, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
A few years ago. So now I have to do topical stuff. And people go, well, don't you put that in your act? Well, you can, but it's old in 3 days. If you're talking about Biden tripping on the stairs, right? Yeah. You have a new 5 minutes, but next week nobody wants to hear about it. So now you have a hole in your set when you have to do an hour at a comedy club. And it's very hard to keep filling that. But I always make sure I have a few topical bits. If you watch a stand-up, stick your head in and watch a stand-up, and he doesn't or she doesn't do anything that's topical or current, it's like
they're getting a little crusty.
Yeah, I think that's part of your job, reporting on what's going on today. So that's just how I feel. But it's hard, like I said, because it's also topical and it gets so old. So I sort of try to go after the macro stuff like gender and race. The bigger.
People always talk about that.
Yeah. So you go after not like specific. You can use some specific stories. Like the riots and stuff. You can talk about that for a few years, but that's what I try to do.
You mean the peaceful protests?
The peaceful protests, with looting and cops die, so I try to stay on the macro, and then I throw in examples of like a Biden right after he fell down the stairs. I put up on Facebook, whatever. Well, my manager doesn't let me go on because I used to get in trouble.
You can't go on your own.
I would get drunk
media.
and I would say shit about Jack Dorsey sucking dick and shit. And then I would get a text from my manager going, "Hey, get off the goddamn phone." Yeah. So I put something about Joe Biden, the first president you can assassinate by putting an out of order sign on an elevated door, meaning he has to take the stairs, shit like that. But then you're like, that joke, works for a week and then you got to move on. So it's kind of tricky as opposed to doing the stuff I used to do where I talked about, my family, my wife, my marriage, which is way easier, but I like to be socially, not that that's not being socially relevant, but I always favored the Bill Hickses of the world and the Lenny Bruces and the people who kind of stirred up shit, Kinnison. Mm-hmm. Those are the people I love. Doesn't mean I don't like Seinfeld. Jerry makes me laugh or whoever. But like guys like Colin Quinn who are topical, that guy, turns over material every day. Yeah. And he's so genius. I like those guys. I like almost every comic, even ones that I don't respect. They always have a couple jokes. Everybody does. You're like, God damn it. That's a good one.
What makes for a comic you don't respect?
Anybody who has ramps on stage.
Ramps? like a handicap?
No, like motorcycle jumping,
okay.
Or silly hats and wear.
Okay, props.
Well, I'll tell you who I don't really. People who do the same act over and over again, year after year, without changing a period or a question mark, and you look in and some guys like my age, and he's talking about getting high in college, and you have to do an hour. You have to, it takes me a year and a half to 2 hours 2 years to put a good hour together. And in my opinion, then you have to put that away, which is becoming much easier at my age because I can't remember that. I am not shitting you. I am not kidding you. Years ago, you do a special, it gets out there. Hopefully somebody sees it. So then you start over, but you still have to use stuff from the last special. You can't start over from zero, right? Mm-hmm. I can't even remember shit from my last album. So I start winging it, which is another way of doing. It's almost the purest form of stand-up when you're up there making it up. Hopefully, and that's why you should record, guys and girls, if you're a comic, every night. You should record your sets every night because you're going to say something that is really good and you're going to miss it, right?
I find it hard to just like sit down and write. Like it's easy for me to like, I improvise something on stage. It's like, all right, remember that and keep it going. How old are you? 37.
37, yeah. Well,
time to hang it up? No.
No, you still have your memory.
It's still there. It does take a lot of iPhone notes. But it's interesting what you said about like the same old set because a fan said last night at the show came up to talk to me after and said, I saw Dice somewhat recently and he had the same exact set. This fan was saying it's the same set as he's been saying like 20. Well, he's talking about eating ass,
Yeah, how many times can you say that? I mean, you can put
great 9
twists on it. The problem with guys like Dice, they have to top themselves. They're shocking and they have to, it's hard to.
How do you top eating ass?
Exactly. I hate when a comic brought me up once. Closing bit was about eating ass. And I go, where do I go from there?
You started from the bottom.
You know what I mean? Where, he just did 25 minutes and the last bit was a 5-minute ass munching bit. And I even said to him, I go, dude, where am I supposed to go after that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not.
And he said, sure, problem. You're the headliner.
It's weird. It's like, what are you going to say? It feels weird because it's like, you can open up your computer, go live, right? 100 people are going to watch like that. Whereas, you're on the road. It's like, you got to, for me at least, like I don't have as much of name recognition, but I got to promote, I got to post, I got to it's a lot of unglamorous work. Yeah. And it's interesting to be like, wow, you could have 3 or 4 times more if you just open up your computer, don't leave your basement. It's been interesting to see like how comedy audiences are changing. And like what you mentioned before, like, we kind of do need a tough crowd now, but like who's going to do that? Folks are so afraid of like, I don't want to get canceled. Like
nobody.
And other comics I talk to, and even in different fields, like I have friends who are porn stars who were like, we can't be vocal about our beliefs. Yeah, actually a couple came out to the show last night.
No.
I should
guy and a woman?
Yeah, they're actually a married couple.
I love Florida.
They did great. They said 2020 was our best year. We're building a pool. I was like, yeah, everyone's home, staying home, jerking off. They're killing it.
We're building a pool.
Yeah, they're making
a pool. We're filling it with jizz. It's going to be terrific.
We're making a jizz pool. You want to come wrestle?
Every time Tampa, and it always gets a laugh in Tampa. I go, what is it? And this is not, I'm not shitting. And then I heard Artie say it. And I was like, I wasn't imagining. I've been going to Tampa a long time. And I'm not shitting, the first 3 or 4 times I went, I had a different couples, every time asked me if I wanted to go back to their house, to the hot tub.
Wow, you still got it.
No, this was years ago. But it would happen like 3 times in a row. And then Artie said it. I think when we were doing the Nick and Artie show, we were talking about comedy, and he said it. I almost fell out of my chair going, it's not, I'm not imagining. Tampa's like, and when I mentioned it in Tampa on stage, it gets a huge laugh. So apparently that's where people go. I don't know. God damn it. I wish I could partake in some of that.
There definitely was a little bit like lingering with this couple, like after the show.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah. They're like, let us know when you're back in Florida. Like, we have a hot tub. And I was like,
come on, for the podcast. Think of it.
Just for the story.
For the show.
Just for the.
Frank will understand.
Sorry, Frank. Yeah.
That's a fucking nightmare, though. Your wife or girlfriend has fucking one nighter with a male porn star.
I think it's a lot of the times, like, I think they have it tough because you have to perform no matter what. There's a crew of dudes looking at you. Everyone's day is dependent on your boner. I've heard horror stories, too, that they have to shoot, Viagra, like, right into their dick.
I do that now. It's terrific. Have you tried that mainlining Cialis? Yeah, but I watch porn. I don't even look at the girls. I'm looking at the guys' dicks.
You are?
I'm looking right at. I go, how do I even get laid when there's guys that have cocks like that?
That's the thing is when you watch porn, I think your perception
Well, it
really
does.
shifts. Most guys don't even. Most girls, I think, we don't care. Like as long as it's most guys, I think, and as someone who's slept with a good variety of dudes, like most dudes are in the perfectly fine range.
Right.
There's like I can remember a couple real small. I can remember one that was too big, but most guys are totally fine in the middle. So I think when you watch porn, you start feeling like, oh shit.
Well, it's like, well, we have body image problems, just like women do. Only it's us with it's male porn stars.
What kind of porn do you watch?
Just regular porn, but most of the guys are in porn because they have big dicks.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I've read I was reading all about porn and about penis size and what women think, and it said only 3% of the whole male population guys have a dick 7 inches or bigger. Only 3%. So I mean. It's funny though. Every girl I know has had a boyfriend with a huge. I'm like, come on, that's fucking false. That statistic.
Yeah, no way.
Maybe I'm dating whores. I don't know. Back in the day,
I remember.
I talk like I'm still dating.
Yeah, you could. Like, but this is it. You're jacked a little bit. This whole look is great.
It used to be a little bit.
You're not like a juice head.
No, that's what it is now.
Coming out, but you're like you clearly work out.
But that's what it is now. It used to be. God, you fucking I did. I got a haircut.
Yeah.
I go to Great Clips in Savannah. $16. Rashonda cuts my hair.
Shout out to Rashonda.
Just found out a month ago. I was paying $38 at this other place, and I went in. Rashonda did a great job. $16. I give her a $20 tip, and doesn't even phase her. She's like, okay,
that's
okay,
great.
Mr. Nick.
Maybe she's used to a bigger tip.
Yes.
That's a pretty
good segue one. From the big dictor.
Speaking of tips, do you think a lot of comics are too careful now? Because a lot of folks will say, "Oh, there's not a lot of conservative comics," or I'm sure people have been telling you for years, "You're edgy, you're taking risks, like you don't give a fuck."
Yeah. I don't watch much comedy. I before I left New York, my last year, every set I did at the Cellar, they fucking hated me.
Wow.
Because it's just, and it's not me. It's
not
me.
Part of why it was easy to leave?
Yeah. Didn't hurt. I mean, it's just, they hated me. And I'd go on, I didn't care. I just do my shit, go to the underground and the place is packed. And you go on after somebody. Every comic, has a different take on the world. I'm like one of the few right-leaning comics. And then, the audience is of Manhattan and, just left wing, Northeast. And they fucking hated me, and the problem is I hate them right back. I tell them to fuck off and call me and go, you can't do that.
Why not? I want them to.
Really, you play your game your way, I'll play it my way. It feels good. I sleep at night. So I was getting no pleasure. And I wouldn't, when I did the Fat Black Pussycat, I would sell tickets. Those are my fans from out of town that happen to be in New York. And that place only holds like 80, 90 people. So that would be fun. But the Cellar, I stopped going there years ago. I came out one night and I go, that is it.
The Cellar is too woke.
Oh, I'm watching who was on before me, who's not even close to edgy. And they were moaning at his shit. I forget who it was. And I was like, you gotta be
Gary
kidding.
Coleman? I don't know. I'm thinking of who performs here.
Who the hell was on before me? And they were like, ooh and an ah. And I'm like, you have to be kidding. It's weird, but the rest of the country doesn't think that way. Luckily, it's really the coast.
When did you start noticing like New York getting like kind of unbearably woke?
Oh, long time ago, a few years after Tough Crowd. Even then, it's been building forever. I never thought it would get to this point, and it's sad to watch these people just soak it in and be brainwashed by this PC shit. Even last night, they get quiet on a couple. I go, you guys know who the fuck I am, right? And they all they do. I go, you see, I said, how deep it runs, how ingrained it is to be afraid to laugh at something that other people might find horrendous.
How stifled the rest of your life must be if you don't even feel like you can laugh. Like you're at a comedy club and you don't feel like you can laugh. Like how much more permission and loosening up do you fucking need?
Oh, that's exactly right. I can imagine what you like at the office with HR down the hall.
Yeah, if you can have fun at a place where there's unlimited alcohol, it's the weekends, people you don't know are not like strangers all around you.
And hopefully the guy you're going to see, you know, he does stuff like this.
Yeah.
Sure, you know. They were fine. I mean, they for the most part, I've been doing it so long. I finally, wherever I go, it's my fans, which just makes a whole difference. But that took me forever. You know, they don't come out because I was on a sitcom. They don't come out, you know, because I was an actor, famous or whatever. I earned every ass now in that seat just by word of mouth or reputation. And it was a long road. You know what I mean?
Just say that to the women and be like, I earned your ass.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's worth it, though. It's so much easier when you know that they're there to see you. It takes so much pressure off.
They are kind of like, yeah, they're going to meet you. They're like, I know. I trust this guy.
Right.
With my night, with my good time. Like
I did Huntsville, Alabama, this club. I'd never done comedy in Alabama in my life, about a year ago. I get a standing ovation when they introduce me.
Wow.
I have never had that. And I'd never been to this club. And I'm like, oh my God, I found my home. Huntsville, Alabama. Who would have guessed? It's not as redneck as it sounds like. So, but I couldn't believe it. That's never happened to me in my hometown or anywhere. But they were huge fans of the podcast because I asked at the beginning of the show. I don't mean half the audience, almost the whole audience had their hands raised. And I was the first 5 minutes of my set, it threw me.
You're so shocked? Like unexpected?
I was so grateful. It made me feel so good. But that happened once in 30 something years. So not that that's important, but it makes you feel at home, you know? So yeah, between podcasts and tough crowd and when you lean right in your politics, you stick out like a sore thumb. So, and if you're funny, you know.
Yeah. I never expected to like kind of turn right myself. Like I was, like I say before on lots of other episodes, like I was very liberal coming out of college. Like if I was coming out of college now, I probably would be woke. Who knows? I would be in Antifa. I was like young, very impressionable, very angry at my dad. I had all the makings of like just being a cunt,
angry at the dad?
Feminist. Oh yeah. Like all of it. So I'm lucky. But it took a few years to kind of just get like knocked around by life and realize you're not going to get anywhere hating half the population. Hating all dudes.
Oh,
you mean
I'm talking about politics. You're talking about sex.
Oh, yeah.
Gender.
Well, it's true. It's very easy to hate on liberals now just because I feel like, well, I was that person. It's just so easy to be brainwashed.
Boy, is it ever.
And if you don't have anybody in your social circle, your family, friends, like to snap you out of it or at least make you question.
Yeah, then you're at a riot with Black Lives Matter, thinking you're doing the right thing. It's sad. And people are so ignorant that believe in that shit. I just saw a clip online. I was at the hotel of a professor, I think it was California woman. Looks like she's in her early 30s, berating one of her male students because he was calling cops heroes.
Oof.
And her logic and reasoning was so ignorant. I got chills.
You're like, ugh, you're a teacher. Gross.
You know, the guy was like, she's like, really? You think all cops are great? And of course, even he doesn't know how to argue. He should have said, I didn't say all cop. Every industry, which he did say, every business has, a few. She's like, a few. And that's where you have to have statistics to back yourself up. Yeah, a few. They have tens of millions of interactions a year with people. And only 1,000 end in shootings, and more than half of those are justified.
And most of them are shooting white people.
Absolutely. So you have no right to berate this kid because imagine she's teaching kids.
Yeah.
Just again, blinded, all emotion, no facts. And he makes that point, right? He goes, well, who are you going to call, professor? If she goes, nobody. I don't trust the cops. And she goes, okay, that's our time. Because he made a good point. She's like, okay, that's our, with the cuntiest tone of voice. I was just sitting there going, this is who's teaching our kids.
Like if you're in education, isn't it your job to be like
open-minded?
Isn't that the fucking even point of college? Like just long conversations, picking stuff apart, asking why. We can't even ask why anymore.
Yeah.
We can't.
It used to be. So now it's just a indoctrination camp. And it's working beautifully because you hear these kids being interviewed. Oh, my God. They're so ignorant. But, And they mean well. I used to go hard on millennials, but I didn't always go really hard because they're good kids, actually. I think their heart's in the right place in a lot of stuff, and I almost feel bad for them. They're the victims. I grew up watching TV, but it wasn't as bad.
Yeah.
But they're the victims. And then when you hear this, they regurgitate these left-wing points.
But, like, kids are always stupid. I think we're just hearing more of it because of like social media. We're hearing every dumb kid now. Whereas like even 15 years ago, you weren't hearing from every dumb kid. Yeah. Like you weren't hearing everybody's opinion.
Yeah, true.
So I don't know. Hopefully we're part of the, I don't know. Not like I'm like, oh, we're heroes. We're doing comedy. But I don't know. Some days it's like, oh, what's the point? And then some days you get a great comment or a great email and you're like, all right, I'll keep going.
But I feel like, like my podcast, at least I'm doing something about it. I feel like I'm fighting back and I give people a place to go. Because you're not going to hear it anywhere else. But it's like whack-a-mole. I get kicked off YouTube. I pop up here.
You were kicked off YouTube?
Well, I was suspended a couple times. They give you 1 strike, 2 strikes.
Did they say over what?
And and then you fight those back. You contest them. You win some. But the point being is they were flagging everything I was putting up, right? So it's useless for me to be myself. I was going to get a 3rd strike, and the next time I opened my mouth.
Wow.
So instead of doing that, my manager, thinking ahead of time, said, "Look, we're going to use them as far as promoting the show. We'll take a clip from your show that's only a minute long, that isn't that controversial, and
a safe 1 minute.
Yeah. But to use it, put it on YouTube because that's where there's a ton of eyes still to tell them where to go to watch the show, which is thecomicsgym.com and nickdip.com. But he was smart enough to go. We're going to use YouTube. You know what I mean? Without you getting totally. But yeah, so I pop up somebody. So he ended up. I get the best manager in the world. He actually put his own money into building a server.
Wow.
And thecomicsgym.com. So I guess I'm safe. I don't know who. I'm like, doesn't Amazon own the servers?
It's so great to work with people who love comedy and like really support it with their whole soul. Like that. Like, not like I want people who are willing to lose money, but like I always talk about this guy out in New Jersey. He runs this club, Tiff's in Morris Plains, Mike Romanelli. Like he, loves comedy. Some nights are at a loss, but he's like, gets it. He gets the weird times we're in and COVID and stuff. So it makes a huge difference. Even like, clubs like The Stand or your manager, Tommy, it's like, oh, when you meet somebody who just like loves and gets and respects comedy.
Well, they got to have that, but they got to have this guy he's done more for me in 3 years than all my previous agents and managers combined. I could have said that after working with him a year and a half.
Wow.
He works 18, 19-hour days. Okay. He learned the business from the ground up. His father used to started the Comedy Works in Albany back in the 80s. He was like 7 years old working in the kitchen, right? Not only that, he's brilliant. By the way, he got 2 wrong on his SATs.
Whoa.
This is the kind of, he's 6'5", about 340.
What is that? Like 14? Well, no, 1600 used to be the top score.
Yeah. So whatever.
Damn.
Just 2 wrong. I mean, so he's really, this is how I fell in love with him. He showed up at my house when we started working together a couple months. Shows up with a computer, a laptop, comes to my house from Albany, opens it up. He's got a tour lined up for me in all the towns and cities that Trump won.
That's smart.
Already, I go, nobody's ever done that for me.
Thinking smarter.
And he always looks at the long picture, which I can't. I can't see past tomorrow. But he's a tremendous businessman. He knows how to market. He can learn anything, code on my website. He's just really friggin' smart, but with a work ethic that nobody can match.
Wow.
He stayed at my house last week and he came down here because we were looking for a new producer for my show. So he interviews them all, sits down. My wife was involved with the Bible. She wrote the Bible for the show as far as what,
do's, don'ts.
Yeah, do's and don'ts for the producers, but he came down, he interviewed people, and he's in my house at night. It's midnight. He's been up since 6, and he's on the phone, like talking to Vegas, closing deals. I mean, I've never seen a guy like this in my life.
Making your cereal for tomorrow, making the coffee.
I mean, he might as well be. I mean, he is And like I said, he's what I thought agents and managers were going to be like when I first got into the business. But most of them are just, they're like secretaries. You're booking the same 5 gigs every year. This guy, and he comes up with an outline, a 4-page outline,
Ooh.
broken down of goals. By May we should be doing this.
That's awesome.
By June the show should be here as far as views, and then we meet those goals or come damn close.
How'd you find each other?
It's funny. He still runs. Have you ever done the comedy workshop?
Yes.
In Sarah?
Yeah,
that's
it's
Tommy,
great.
the big Italian guy.
Oh yeah, I know
That's
Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah, I've done that club.
I'll give you an idea, folks. He drives down. He would drive down from Albany to New York City to the Comedy Cellar, which is 4 hours probably. Every Tuesday, he'd get to the cellar at like 4 PM and sit there on his computer just watching what was going on, taking notes
At the olive.
at
branch,
the olive tree upstairs, and just talk to whoever was running it. And I mean, his work ethic. But he'd drive all the way and then drive home. And he's got a wife and 2 kids.
Wow.
And he's a man, is what he is. He's a
man.
He really is. And
works.
I feel so. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
That's
I come home
amazing.
after my show. I want to take a nap. But I've never met anybody like him. He was the best thing for my career. Him and Trump together.
So did you meet him at the cellar?
I met him when I went up to do his gigs 10 years ago. So funny, we banged heads.
We banged.
we signed it. Yeah, no, we didn't bang. I'd be dead. We sort of banged heads. He sent after I did the gig, he sent one email. He got one negative email and he sent it to my agent. Some guy said Nick was mailing it in, which I've never done. If you've seen me, nobody gets more emotionally invested while he's on stage. I've never mailed in a set in my life. So he sent that to my manager.
What a dick.
And I went, what the? Yeah. So next time I saw him, I went back up there. I gave him a hard time. And he's, so we sort of banged heads. And I don't even think he really liked me and I didn't like him. I don't even remember when it changed. I think he saw me at his club a couple of times and saw that's what he does. He'll sit and pay attention. Even now he'll come with me on the road sometimes. Like I was in Chicago a year ago when COVID first. He flew to Chicago. We rented a car. He lined up a couple of gigs for me outside of Chicago.
Wow.
And he watches the audience, what they're laughing at and what they're not. He's not even watching me. And he studies the audience. He's just he's a student of everything he does.
Like a scientist.
He is, and he looks like a bouncer, He's a big, scary dude.
Wow.
And he's smart as a whip. And every time I do an interview, I talk about him forever. So yeah, we drove around and he's watching the audience and he's taking notes of what worked, what didn't. But he knows how to market. I mean? He hired a couple people who got fired on a big podcast. I don't want to say the guy's name, but they left the podcast. He flies to a different state to meet with these guys and hires them for me. Now you show me another manager that would do that.
That's above and beyond. Yeah.
But it's his, why? It's if I don't make money, he's not making money. His favorite phrase is we're leaving money on the table. And I always go, yeah, you're leaving money on the table. I'm the one who has to stay in a hotel room for 3 days. Lonely.
Other than the YouTube strikes, because I just got my first YouTube strike. Thank you.
Broke your cherry.
It was my Aubrey Huff interview. He played for the San Francisco Giants, and I got my first medical misinformation strike.
Well, that's what I got
from him. Yeah, because he was going on and on about the coof, as some people say.
Oh, it wasn't even you talking.
If they want to talk in code, but I'm, I always forget the code words and I just say it. But yeah. So other than YouTube, what have you been? Have you been canceled from anything else? Or
I don't get gigs. I mean, Tommy doesn't tell me about a lot of them, but he did tell me about a few theaters. I was booked in some theater down south. It was on the books for about a month. And then they came back about 2 weeks before and said no, because of, it was one particular thing that I said, just like one thing. I don't even remember what it was.
I wonder if it was that Hillary Clinton lady with the bag. Is there?
What the hell was it? I don't even remember, but it was something very touchy. And I'm sure there's a lot of those he doesn't tell me about. So, one time, this was years ago before I even met Tommy, I was somehow my agent got me a commercial for, I think it was Applebee's, and they were going to shoot it in Atlanta. This is when I was living in New York. And it was going to be me, and it was going to be the broadcaster, what's his name? Chip something. He's very famous for the Atlanta Braves. And it was going to be like not Bob Uecker, but Tim McCarver or another famous baseball player. Anyways, at the 11th hour, literally the night before, I was going to get 25 grand for a day because it's a national spot, you know,
nice,
and get paid after that. But they did like the night before they called and said, yeah, we went on his website. We went on it online and, you know, they saw some of the roasts. What's that got to do with what I'm doing tomorrow? When
what roast did you do?
Which one didn't I do? Pam Anderson, Jeff Foxworthy, Larry the Cable Guy. We roasted who else? Dennis Leary. Yeah, so a bunch of them. But they saw. I think the Pam Anderson's the one that I got the most coverage on. So, but whatever, you know. And you're like, what's that got to do? Well, that's how it works now. The corporate. Oh, he did something racial, you know, whatever. This was 10 years ago.
You're like, I'm not going to do Pam Anderson roast jokes.
No, I know.
At this gig,
I know.
Unless there happens to be.
So there goes. I was all excited. I was getting like 25 grand or 22 grand. There it goes away.
Oh no!
It didn't even bother me though. It bothered me for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I take the hard road.
Any like mega trolls?
I don't look at that shit. I don't look at it.
You don't look at the comments?
Nope.
Not
Never.
anywhere?
Nope.
I look at all of them.
Yeah, that's a bad move. Well, maybe you can take it. I can't.
Exactly. It could be like 90 positive comments, and then I see 2 that are negative, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Well, I should lose 10 pounds.
You shouldn't. But yeah, like my last album, A Breath of Fresh Air, you know. And then you know how they give it stars on iTunes or whatever. First couple comments, it's just right wing horseshit. Too bad this guy used to be funny and whatever, you know, just panned me, whatever. Who cares? I'm not playing to you. I'm glad you hate my guy. And it's not an this is what they do when you're kind of a political comic. They'll go, you're not funny anymore. No, it's not that you don't think I'm funny. You hate my politics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're unable to appreciate you.
No, lefties don't. They won't. You know, people on the right, for the most part, I found Jon Stewart funny, and even Al Franken, who's a hateful little left-wing piece of shit, but he would make me laugh when he was on Letterman. But there's people on the left don't do that. It's their religion.
They're so close-minded.
They are the worst. So I don't look at that garbage. For me, at least, people can look at it, but I let it get to my head sometimes. So
good for you. Yeah. That's definitely a strength.
I try not to look at it.
So where can people find you and follow you?
You can find me at the Quality Inn in Buffalo, watching porn from 1 p.m. to 4. No, well, tonight. Well, it doesn't matter. I don't know when this is going to air. Go to nickdip.com and click on the tour date. I'm going to be doing Gutfeld's show on May 12th.
Ooh.
And the next night I'm at Hilarities in Cleveland on the 13th. Then the next night, VPX Theater in Baltimore. And then the next night, Soul Joel's in Royersford, Pennsylvania. So that's like May 12, 13, 14. Well, 12 is Gutfeld's show. 13, 14, and 15 of May. Go to nickdip.com, click on the tour date. Watch my show. It's 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. On thecomicsgym.com, on nickdipalo.com, and that's about it.
And your social media, your Twitter?
Yeah, no, I'm off Twitter.
Oh,
when they booted Trump, I said I'm not doing this. Fuck them. So I took myself off Twitter. And I couldn't behave myself on there, anyways. But I'm, you know, Facebook's still there, Instagram at Kevin Brennan. No, I don't.
Do you not get along with him?
Oh, I like Kevin. He's nuts.
He is nuts.
He's nuts. He's crazy. Who gets along with Kevin?
I don't know. He doesn't. He started a weird beef.
I love
with
him
me.
though. He's funny.
Funny
He's lots
guy.
of beef with everybody.
Yeah.
But he's generally nuts, which is what I like about him. Very funny too.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah. Everybody follow Nick. Go to nickdip.com. Check out his show. Follow him where he still exists on the internet. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Chrissie. Appreciate
nice to
it.
meet you finally.
Same here, honey. Appreciate it. That was sexist.
Hey,
he said